As we find ourselves getting ever closer to the climax of our adventure, we find ourselves heading back to a very early portion of the game where you might recall we managed to clear out our first bit of that dangerous fog, reuniting young Carol and her father. The problem was, realistically, we still left about half of the residential area just permeating that deadly fog. Not to mention, you might recall next to the elevator, there was a very high-level security door that we could not get into. That is, until we were able to help out Sergei and hopefully fulfill his final dying wish.
Access granted. Releasing lock.
Now, I will start off by saying that dispensary might not be the best name for this place. In fact, it seems like a bit of a misnomer for what lies in store for ahead of us.
What's wrong?
Now, finding the location for the ghost in this room is pretty easy. You can hear him click-clacking away at the keyboard.
What in the world is happening? His release date is up. What is headquarters doing? Hurry, get communication established. As long as he's around, my work will never be finished. He's shown enough remorse. What is headquarters doing? What are you doing? You're interfering with my work.
Pretty quickly, we are able to ascertain what's leaving this duty-bound ghost to be left behind. It's just a question now of figuring out just who this person is that is keeping him here. It looks like there's some medical equipment nearby. It's just that what we're going to find in the monitoring system paints a bit of a different picture for the area. Yeah, there is an OR at the far end of the hallway here. What seems to mostly dominate the area, though, are a number of cells. Now, I'm not overly familiar with general, outer space triage areas, but cells don't really seem like a commonplace fixture in them. Still, what draws my attention right now is something right next to the door here. Now, you might recall that Sergei did ask us to head down into this area to find a missing pocket watch. That's a pretty clear idea of where it is. It's just, well, we also now know that in the middle cell, there is indeed a ghost waiting. And just as the person at the keyboard said, he seems to be pretty remorseful. Though it must be a good reason why he is locked away in here. Outside of that, the cell is mostly barren, though if we do focus in on the door, you can see not only the lanyard of the pocket watch, but also something else.
Are you threatening me?
No, I don't mean to. Just please talk to headquarters. I don't want to stay here anymore. I just want to get some send-off money. That's all.
Henry, you?
The company will be in trouble too. This should have been an historical event. If the public finds out about this...
You don't know anything. That red stone is... It's...
What are you trying to say?
It granted my wish at the cost of Kenneth's life.
So it appears that extortion and blackmail was the name of the game. Seems that Henry here was trying to get a little bit of money out of the director for keeping quiet, and that definitely did not work out for the best for him. Still, we are going to need to get into that cell and get that pocket watch. And considering our limited number of places we can go in the area, I can only assume that what we need to get him free is going to be in the OR here. Now, outside of the operating table in the center, the only other thing that really grabs our attention is the computer here. Seems like there is something waiting for us to read on the screen. In addition to that, though, you might have also noticed the slight green glow coming off the wall.
What are you doing here?
I'm just looking for something.
Well, everything's a mess, so I'm just organizing. There's a reference guide on that wall there.
Oh, is this it? Yeah. The document's on the shelf in the residential section.
Sorry, I'm organizing a little bit at a time.
Lots to do, huh? No one can help you either.
I heard that the last guy here, Kenneth, died from an accident at the mine. His body was found by some stone.
Yeah. He reached his hand out as if he was pointing to it. As if he meant to point at it.
Definitely seems like Kenneth's mysterious demise was probably the gossip of the facility for quite some time. Outside of that, though, there was one other piece of information to glean from that recording. It's just to fully understand that, we are going to need to head down to the OR. Now, if you are running low on battery power, there's a pretty easy to find portable battery here. And I would definitely say at this portion of the game, if you haven't been correctly keeping track of the batteries, you might definitely be running low. Also, as you make your way down, you might feel inclined to check out that middle cell. You are greeted by one of the few jump scares in the game. But yeah, for right now, all we have left to check out is the OR at the end of the hall. Now, as we saw from the camera, there's not too much to this room. There's another portable battery in case you do need it inside the cabinet. And if you didn't happen to get it on your first visit to the residential area, looks like there are some supplies waiting in room 10, and from the recording we could see the final digit was 5. Now, you might recall from our first initial visit to the residential area, in room 105, not only did we find the young Carol, but we also did find a piece of paper. More importantly, though, we find on the computer screen here that old Henry was given his release from the detention center here. And it's pretty easy for us just to make a quick printout of the release form. Problem is that something about it just seems to be a bit underwhelming. Closer inspection. The date, the name, and everything's correct. It's just, I get a feeling that duty-bound ghost is pretty much a stickler for protocol. He's probably going to expect something a bit more by the book. And that's where this much more official-looking paper comes into play. Yeah, while we didn't technically need to get this so very early on in the game, and realistically we wouldn't have known it was there, it is going to be the key part to completing this little side quest. Good thing for us that, I guess, this is very long-lasting printer ink. But yeah, from that official-looking paper, we get an official release permit. And while the gist of the text is the exact same, well, we know it's legitimate now because it's called official. So with that in hand, and even a less traditional backup copy, we can now head back to the guard.
Has my release date passed?
And we can see if we can finally fulfill Henry's long-awaited release date.
What's wrong? Looks like I finally got through to headquarters. I'd better release it as soon as possible. I've completed my duty, and justice has been served. Now, time to go home. Being a guard is not easy.
And with that guard released from his terrible, terrible duty of having to wait for that release form, which comparatively speaking, it's probably the least difficult job we've had to run into with all these different ghosts. The middle cell should now be free, and we can release poor old Henry.
I finally got out. They sure did take their sweet time, though. I should have never been thrown in jail. I threatened to rat out the director. I got sent to jail. Well, here's better than being left in the basement, I suppose. The priest is, I am sure, dead by now. If left in a place like that, he'd be gone in no time. Take this. I don't need it anymore. If you want to live, get out of here now. Ah, it's nice to be out of that cage.
Man, the picture of the director just keeps getting worse and worse. I mean, he's locked up and killed so many people. And even worse, the only person he got any sympathy from, the priest, he locked away to die as well. Now, you do want to make sure and pick up that pocket watch. I know you just got a brand new key, but don't want to make sure and forget about that. I mean, that was the entire reason we came to this area. But at least for our good deed, we did manage to get another new key. And it's probably for an area that mostly pretty forgotten at this point. The good news is that it is very close by. You might recall that in addition to the little elevator area here, there was a renovation area right next to it. And in that small renovation area, there was a mysterious door leading to a laboratory, which we now have the specialized key for.
Security key recognized. Access granted.
Now, you might be worried that we haven't been attacked by a ghost in quite some time, and being in close quarters here, we could be a bit in trouble. But yeah, the ventilation control is very close by.
ID verified. Ventilation system activated.
As a matter of fact, that is our final ventilation device for the entire game. As of right now, all of the dangerous fog has been lifted from the facility, and the only thing that can really kill us now is if we happen to go jump into one of those deep lunar pits. So with that relative weight off of our minds, we are free to explore the laboratory here, though for the most part its setup is very similar to the other rooms in the residential area. On the desk here, you'll find a very interesting picture of our fiancée Claudia. In fact, she is standing next to, believe it or not, the director of the facility. And it's with this electronic organizer here that we get our first real insight into the director's mindset. Now, as this is just a small organizer, his thoughts are pretty compact. He starts off by talking about the mysterious red stone and its strange high oxygen content, which seems to have mysteriously granted his wishes regarding the oxygen shortage at the facility. He also talks about the fact that hopefully once the mine is up and running fully, Claudia can come up here and join him. Problem is that even though the fog is non-toxic, accidents just seem to grow higher and higher, though the mine is still running at full capacity. Problem is that shortly enough, food does start to run out, and he does make another wish, though, well, for whatever food they manage to get, the deaths just continue to mount and mount. And that's because he just keeps on making wishes, and sacrifices must be made. And for the final page, we get a bit of a cryptic message that we can see on the face of the organizer here. And while it might not immediately make sense, as we head into the bunk area in the back here, everything is pretty neat and tidy. We do come across a cabinet with a very curious locking mechanism. Now, the key to this passcode is in orb itself. You just have to take a color and match it up with the first letter that it's calling out, so orange, red, and blue. And for solving that relatively easy puzzle, we get what seems to be a pretty lackluster reward. Thing is, I have a pretty good idea what we could do with this red chemical. I think it might match up pretty well with that yellow chemical we got so long ago. Other than that, the laboratory has pretty much been ransacked of anything we could possibly need, so we'll just continue on to the next area.
I'm an android. All I do is memorize things. You and Claudia are apart. And all the people who got involved with this facility have lost their lives. But they're also bound by memory. Remember me? I'm Kenneth. Kenneth Livingston. This place has quieted down a lot. This picture will be done soon.
So we finally learn, well, just who the android was crafted after by Claudia. Seems it was the director's long-dead friend and the first sacrifice of the Red Stone. As to what connection that still has to us, it leaves a bit of a mystery. But as he did mention that painting almost being done, that means as well that we too are almost done helping out all the spirits of the facility.
This is the commander's pocket watch. You are giving this to me? Commander, thank you very much. I love you.
And that is all the Russian cosmonauts free, though bit of a word of warning. Once she is gone, you now no longer have access to the spaceport. Still, we did manage to finish everything we needed to do in the spaceport. And that does connect to, well, you might recall that there was a pretty tired-looking ghost just sitting here on the lunar surface. He seemed to be rambling on about a music box and hoping that a friend of his made his way back to Earth.
Go now.
Mr. Gould, you're okay.
Why are you here? Why did you come back here?
I can't leave without you, Mr. Gould. I brought this for you. Your sister's music box.
Alan.
Don't give up. You're gonna go back to Earth to be with your sister. Your sister will get up.
Yeah, the surgery goes well, she should be fine.
Yes, she'll be fine.
If you go back to Earth, the three of us can go somewhere together.
Are you sure?
Yeah, me, you, and Nellie.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gould. I can't wait to take that trip. Let's hope we can leave soon.
I can't wait.
And that is another 2 souls free from the moon. And while they are completely optional, it does make getting to our next destination a little bit easier, though we don't want to head there just yet. There's a couple people waiting for us down in the mines. We just need to slowly and very carefully make our way over there. Be a massive shame to end up accidentally jumping into a pit and losing all of this progress. Now, the next spirit that we're going to run into will only appear once you have cleared up all the fog in the facility. And it is a very familiar phantasm.
I was
trigger the fog. Since Kayla and Jeffrey died, confined in the basement to save my life, I lived my life with God, but was it something I really wished? That figure in the fog is me. I know. What I wish was in that fog. This is what the director is saying about the fog. The power of that red stone. Take this. Look after it. Kayla, Jeffrey, I pray they will be released and find their way out of that dark fog. May the truth fall upon you.
For whom the bell tolls, time marches on. Yeah, we learn that the priest was overcome with anger, not only from how the director ended up killing him, but also the fact that that ended up leading to even more deaths whenever somebody tried to help the priest. Still, we'll find out about that a little bit more in a little while. First, though,
He is such a
we have poor Nancy still waiting out in the graveyard. And, well, we did manage to find that letter from her husband. It's just I didn't read it before because I assume with his standoffish behavior, it's probably not that great. It's just from reading it, we find out the truth of it all. And that's just the fact that Norman wasn't very good with talking. He hoped that maybe coming to the moon would allow them to open up more to each other, but in the end, all he could really get out was this letter, and by then it was just too late. Hopefully, though, by Nancy seeing this, she'll understand his true feelings.
A letter? What is this? How amusing. I never thought he would write something like this. He thought that this would make me happy. That's kind of silly. We were together for 20 years and I kind of wish I didn't throw that time away.
Well, it's a good thing for Nancy that we're so good at platforming.
So you picked this up? Thank you. Now I can go to him. He would be hopeless without me. Goodbye. Thank you.
And with Nancy released to go rejoin Norman in the afterworld, and that is the final optional ghost that we need to take care of. Though that isn't all the ghosts that we will be running into. No, the final spirits that we are going to be, having to deal with are going to be underground. And it's just going to require getting through this thick layer of ice. Seems though, after penetrating that layer of ice, we find ourselves in a very cold and dark underground tunnel. We haven't heard anything about this particular area. And realistically, the only person that might even know about this area is probably the director, the priest, and his two friends.
Get out. I don't like you. I won't allow this. Where is the priest? He was the first person who praised me. He was like a leader to me. Get out.
You? Why did you come here? Get out! Get out right now! I won't allow this. Absolutely not you. Aren't you ashamed of your behavior? You deserted your friends and confined us here to pursue your own desire. If you are ashamed, get out right now.
So it seems these two have some pretty misdirected anger towards us, but with that rosary we got from the priest, we can hopefully persuade them we're on the up and up.
This is no way.
This is the priest.
Priest, did I turn my back on God's teachings? You said not to hold grudges towards anyone.
I hate him. But if the priest says so, I'll be patient.
Yes, I know, Jeffrey. Poor thing. Someday, you will understand what he meant.
The priest said it's important that everybody corrects their wrongdoings.
Let's go, Jeffrey. He's waiting for us.
I am saved. I hope you will be saved soon. Go to the observatory, then you can be saved. Waiting.
And so, with their release, we are directed towards probably be our final destination. We are given this very ornate key, which should fit that very ornate lock we saw so very long ago. Still, at this point, I'm kind of left with more questions than answers. I mean, did Claudia ever tell us about the director? Was she ever privy to the things that he did up here at the facility? And why does it seem like quite a few of these ghosts really think that we're the director? Now, for the most part, this area is pretty small, and this monitor room is more or less very superfluous. Still, it is worth checking out because, as you might guess, there is a recording waiting for us somewhere on the lunar surface. And as you might already be able to guess, it is right next to that formerly ice-covered doorway.
Where are you? Claudia, it's kind of dark and gloomy in here. I just wanted to save everyone. And this facility... Everybody's dead now. My wish... a red stone. My last wish. Claudia.
And it's with that recording that we see the director's final wish. A wish that, with everyone dead, seems to have been in vain. In addition to that, though, believe it or not, well, we have managed to interact and free every ghost in the game, go to almost every area of the game, and get every recording. Problem is that, well, there's still quite a bit of mystery to unravel here, and that will hopefully be fulfilled for us whenever we head to the observatory. So hopefully you will join me next time as we head to the culmination of our story and see what lies in store for us in the fated observatory. See you then.